Bucs fans? This is Buck Ball Podcast Episode 9. I haven't been on here in a while. I've written a couple articles on buckballpodcast.com. You should go check those out. This podcast, I decided to watch the Saints game, Week 17. This is a game that we needed for a playoff spot. At the time, we were in the hunt. We were the 7th seed. The Giants held the 6th. So I decided to watch this game just to see how this team would respond after losing to the Cowboys and pretty much having our backs against the wall, and how they would play knowing that we needed this game. And obviously we know we ended up losing 31-28. Excuse me. But now to start this game, we had no Will Golston and no DeMar Dotson. We had Leonard Wester at right tackle. And it was very evident that Will Golston's absence led to a lot of rushing yards. He was our best run-stuffing defensive end, not necessarily our best sack artist, but not in the beginning of this game, Quan Alexander was missing tackles. He did make a nice pass deflection, and it was pretty obvious, even starting, and later on in the game they ended up switching it up. But Cam Jordan was just way too much for Leonard Wester. Later in the game, we put Pamphile at right tackle, and Evans goes to left guard. Or Evan Dietrich Smith, I'm sorry. Noah Spence, he was getting washed down the line during this game. He wasn't making plays. Now, obviously, he was pretty much playing with one shoulder. Did have an offside penalty. And now, surprisingly, the Saints were doing just as well rushing on the interior of the line as they were running left or right. Couple things I noticed about this game. I took a couple notes as I watched the whole entire thing. It took me a while. It took me about 3 hours to get through this whole thing while I was taking notes and rewinding things and seeing how it was going. Chris Conte really wasn't the poster boy of getting, the bad rep by Bucs. It wasn't really this game. He did have one pass interference, but the whole Bucs secondary as a whole was just getting worked back and forth. And now I noticed a lot that Gerald McCoy was getting pressure. Gerald McCoy was about probably a second off every single time he was about to get a sack, and Drew Brees is just too good at getting the ball away, especially in this game. Now, later on in the second quarter, Jameis hits Cam Brate right in his hands on an inside pass post route. This is our first missed opportunity. Cam can't hang on. That would have been a touchdown, or at least a first and goal at the 2. The score is still 3-3 at this time. So, anyways, that was our first missed opportunity. Now it's 3rd and 14. Right after a Charles Sims run, Jameis found Humphreys over the middle on a cross. Von Bell knew he was beat, so he committed a pass interference. And the next play is a touchdown, and it's an amazing catch by Cameron Brate. It was double coverage, it was a tight window, and he knew he was going to get popped, and did. He maintained his balance and walked right in. Now, another thing I noticed while I was watching this game, I ended up writing these notes a lot, so this is what I seen. Hargraves is a very good tackler, has been all year, especially along the line. He doesn't get beat too much, but he still struggles to trust his eyes. And I expect in year 2 he breaks on more balls, but he plays way off, and he doesn't break when it's a comeback route almost every single time. I noticed 3 different comeback routes in this game where he pretty much is getting there 1 or 2 seconds right after the players caught the ball. Another thing I noticed a lot in this game, and it's really not that hard to notice, even if you are a casual football fan or analyst or whatever, Winston's deep ball still needs work. But when you're only throwing deep to Evans, probably stunting your growth. Now, it's evident he needs to work with a surefire wide receiver number 2 instead of a new guy every few weeks that they're pulling out of McDonald's or a bank teller or a guy that's driving a city bus around, and then he comes to Bucs tryouts and he ends up getting a job. Now, halftime. It's pretty much almost halftime. I noticed the stats. We only have 62 yards passing at half and 35 rushing. The Saints already have 137 passing yards with 71 rushing. Now, right when halftime is over, Saints kick it off to us. We're receiving. Josh Huff catches the ball at about the 10-yard line, bobbles it. The ball falls behind him. He goes to pick it up again, bobbles it again. Now we're pretty much in our own end zone. Jameis is pretty much heading up snap right in the end zone. And here comes one of the really bad decisions of the game. We're in an obvious run formation. We got one wide receiver to the left, which is Evans. Evans runs just a straight go route, and Jameis throws it up to him for some strange reason while he's double covered, and it's an easy interception for Jarris Byrd. Now, immediately after Jarris Byrd runs it back to about the 20, Mark Ingram rushes to the right for an easy touchdown. It's now 20-7. Now, this game, Paul Kruger is beating Smith left and right. I counted at least 2 or 3 times where this was happening. And Paul Kruger is not even an elite defensive end, but this kept happening over and over and over again. Now that it's 20-7, our rushing game picks up in the third, and on our drive between Sims and Rogers, we led to a touchdown. I think we threw the ball maybe 2 times in that whole thing. So Rogers ends up pushing it in on a second effort. Now it's 20-14. So the Saints are coming back. They get the ball. Hargraves is on coverage on Mike Thomas. Slant route. Missed tackle. Bradley McDougald missed tackled. Quan chases him down all the way down, probably 20 or 30 yards after the dude had already caught the ball. Trips him up. Now, here we go again. Saints in the red zone. Ingram is killing us. Of course, he ends up getting a touchdown. He doesn't get a touchdown, but it's leading up to a touchdown. Gerald McCoy bouts down the pass. You're thinking the Bucs are finally going to get a stop. Then, bam, touchdown for Travis Cadet. Coming off the backfield, gets JV and Elliott to go outside, faking a flat route. Turns in for the quick touchdown. Yeah, and it was easy. It was just too easy. It's like the Bucs just had no answer for anything they were doing all game long. You could definitely tell when we played the Saints 2 weeks prior, the game plan had changed. They were spreading us out, and we just got caught off guard. You know, we were on our heels at all times during this game. So what do the Saints do right after they score this touchdown? They go for a 2-point conversion, and of course it's Mark Ingram getting it. So now it's 28-14. Now, third quarter, first down. Brake catches a pass over the middle. He gets hit in the back, and now he's out for the rest of the game. So you can imagine that Dirk Koetter's game plan almost pretty much went right out the window, and he kept trying to go to Brandon Myers just like he was Cameron Brate, and he's obviously not athletic enough to scare defenses the same way that he would. Another thing I noticed, and I wrote this down 3 or 4 times, almost every time we go to an empty backfield, 5 wide receiver set, we throw a screen. And I mean, as a Bucs fan, and I know all of the Bucs fans notice this too, this happens almost every game. We throw 3 or 4 different wide receiver or running back screens a game. And the beginning of the year, they worked. The middle of the year, it's either throwing deep to Evans, throwing in the middle of Cam Ray, or we're throwing a wide receiver screen. It's almost like watching Florida State football back when we had E.J. Manuel, or before we had E.J. Manuel. It was run up the middle, run to the left, wide receiver screen, out route. It's getting very predictable. I don't know if it's Dirk Koetter just game planning that way, or if that's just Winston calling it at the line. It's so hard to know, but if a casual fan can see it, I'm pretty sure the opposing defenses can see it too. Now, I think we're going to get a lucky break here. Jameis hits Josh Huff on a screen, and Josh has one guy to beat. Huff slips, and the reaction on Jameis's face was everything. He was so pissed. You could visibly tell Jameis knew that it was going to be a long drive, or a long catch, and Josh Huff slips, and it seems like Josh Huff has made negative play after negative play. He just keeps messing up. Now, there's 2 minutes left in the third, and we only have 150 passing, which when I noticed the stat. And right after I noticed the stat, Jameis hits Mike Evans deep for a 50-50 ball against the former Bucs Sterling Moore for a touchdown. It's now 28-21. As soon as Saints get the ball, Breeze hits Kobe Fleener. He catches the ball, turns inside, which to me is a football move. Quan hits him. He fumbles. The Bucs recover. Now, of course, it gets reviewed, and I knew it was going to get overturned because of this dumbass catch rule, which nobody seems to know what it is. I can't figure it out. The NFL can't figure it out. Nobody can figure it out. But anyways, later on in the third quarter now, after that stupid-ass dumb catch rule thing, it's 2nd and 10. Hargraves gets burnt for a 43-yard catch. Brandon Cooks gets right behind him, right down the field. I have no idea how he got that open. It makes no sense to me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if Hargraves is still hurt because earlier in the game he did have looks like an ankle injury. He just kind of twisted it, kind of rolled it a little bit, but he came right back in the game. It didn't seem to affect him, so it's kind of hard to tell what's going on there. Now at this point, the Saints just keep making plays. Mark Ingram runs right to the right in our end zone, holds Levante's face mask, and gets a penalty. So now we're thinking, okay, we're going to hold him to a field goal here, 3rd and 16. So we send a 6-man blitz, and Breeze converts it at the 5-yard line, and guess who can't bat the ball away? It's Vernon Hargraves. Another comeback route. Michael Thomas runs just past the first down marker, catches the ball. Hargraves did actually make a decent attempt. He got his hand in front of Michael Thomas, but Michael Thomas just held on for the play. We ended up holding him to a field goal after all. Now, this is later on in the game. Another wide receiver set, another wide receiver screen, which doesn't get much. Now it's the 4th at this time. Jameis is running for his life. Our offensive line seems like they're breaking down. They're just having miscommunication after miscommunication. Nothing seems to be working. Now it's 3rd and 14. Jameis throws a really bad interception. He doesn't see it closing in Jarris Byrd. He read Jameis's eyes all the way and broke on the ball before Russell Shepard broke on his own route. Going on 4 minutes left in the 4th here. Saints just now punt for the 2nd time. I thought that was an interesting note. They punted the first time in the 2nd quarter, and then they punted again in the 4th. So that's a long time for the Saints not to have a punt, which means they scored on every single drive, touchdown or field goal, whichever. Now, the thing I noticed, especially late in these games, Jameis seems to get really inaccurate the more emotional he gets during the game. He had big, slow Brandon Myers on a slant for a touchdown, and he throws it a bit too high, hits his hands, and he can't hold on. Now, could have been 28-31 with 2:05 and 3 timeouts, but it wasn't. So we settled for a field goal to make it 24-31. Now, the Bucs try an onside kick, which is very strange to me here. I mean, you're pretty much going to have 2 minutes left, and you can kick the ball deep. I know you haven't been stopping the Saints at all, but at least if you stop them way down on their side of the field, you're going to get better field position on the punt. I didn't understand this at all. It's one of those times where it makes me wonder what the hell Dirk Cutter's thinking. But he's the head coach, not me. Now, it's 1:55. Ingram gets an 8-yard run on 1st down to make it 2nd and 2. Timeout. Again, it's 3rd and 1. Ingram gets 1 yard. Now it's 1:44. It's 3rd and 1. Mark gets more than enough for the first. We use our last timeout. Saints run the clock out. Game over. Now, those are just a few notes. I'm going to write an article about it, a couple videos. But I just wanted to get in here and kind of get back on the ball again. I haven't done a podcast since the draft, which I really loved our draft. I was expecting us to get Dalvin Cook just because who knows he was going to fall right into our lap. I mean, Jameis even said it. And usually what Jameis wants, Jameis gets. But obviously, the Bucs know something we don't. And I'm fine with getting O.J. Howard. I really don't mind that. Because if you think having a 2 tight end set, and especially a tight end that can block very well, Cameron Brate's not the best blocker. He does make some amazing catches. But having a 2 tight end set, that's only going to help the offensive line. Then you got Deshaun Jackson on the outside, Evans on the outside, Humphreys in the slot. Our offensive line is going to play better just because of all these new toys that Winston has. For the simple fact that you're going to have more time to throw the ball. And as far as the deep passing that Jameis needs to work on, I truly believe that Deshaun Jackson is going to be kind of a medium for that. Because even if Jameis doesn't have enough time to throw the ball and Deshaun Jackson's running deep, if Jameis overthrows it, Deshaun can overcompensate or undercompensate however fast or how slow he needs to go before he takes off and burns a DB. I think it's going to be great. Overall, we had a good draft. I didn't understand, I really wanted us to keep Bradley McDougald. I really didn't understand why he went to the Seahawks whenever he's going to be buried on that depth chart for a couple $1 million deal. which is essentially a 1-year deal. I didn't understand that, but we addressed that in the second round with Justin Evans. Kind of a head scratcher because not a lot of people really know about him. But if you go back and watch his film, he's probably one of the hardest hitters. It reminds me of an old school football player. He reminds me of Cam Chancellor a lot, but he does miss tackles. That's easily coachable. We waited till the 7th to address our offensive line, which is kind of, strange. We got Chris Baker. Whatever. That's good, but either way, those guys need to be rotational because you're putting 110% every single snap, and I mean by the fourth quarter, everybody's going to be tired. So we address our defensive line with defensive tackle Stevie Tui Kolavatu. That's going to be a fun name to say, especially from the announcers. Now, the player that I'm most excited about, and I really had no idea that we would get him, and I think it's going to be great if Deshaun ever goes down, because if Deshaun goes down, we are right back in the same boat we were, except for we have, a 2 tight end set. That's fine, but you still need somebody on the outside. I love the Chris Godwin pick. I didn't think we were going to get him. I thought he was a second-round wide receiver to me. I mean, you can watch the tape on him all you want. I did. And this guy makes play after play after play. And if you go look on I think it's called Reception Perception. It's the fantasy football guys. Look at this route chart and the completion percentage that he got. It's pretty amazing. I love this dude. He's fast. He runs a 4.4. I noticed how good he was before the combine, and then after he ran a 4.4, I figured he was going to be gone way before then. So that's great. That's great for our wide receiver depth. To me, the Bucs were only 1 or 2 pieces away. Now, 1 or 2 pieces away doesn't mean Super Bowl. 1 or 2 pieces away could mean playoff. I still think we're maybe 1 year away from even contending for a Super Bowl, because just because you got all these new guys in doesn't mean that it's going to translate into wins. Sometimes it takes a little while to get a chemistry going. But hopefully Jameis and all these guys are in the offseason and they're working on their routes and they're working on the chemistry before training camp, and that's only going to be a lot better. Our other pick, Kendall Beckwith, another linebacker at LSU. Nobody really knew who he was. I've heard his name a few times just watching college football. But the reason why a lot of people didn't really hear his name too much is because, he was out with an ACL injury. And we're still not sure if he's even going to be able to be in training camp. So he's running right now at the rookie minute camp from the stories that I've seen. So that's a good thing if he has been running. That's pretty much half the battle. Now, starting to trust your knee and getting some camaraderie with your teammates, that's cool. Now, we're assuming that he's going to be battling for the Sam spot. He's going to be battling with Devontae Bond. So that's going to be a cool training camp battle to watch. Roberto Aguayo and Nick Folk's going to be a good training camp battle to watch. And the good thing about it is, if you don't get to go to training camps as a fan and watch these players in person, which I'm going to be doing, the Bucs are going to be on Hard Knocks. So you're going to get to see these battles live and in person. It's going to be great. It's going to be great for a Bucs fan. I can't wait. I'm excited. But as far as the draft goes, I really did a piece on buckballpodcast.com called Scouting the Division. So I basically did a little overall summary of every team in the NFC South draft and what it means to us. And I think the team that we have to be the most worried about, even though the Falcons are still coming off the Super Bowl loss, I still don't think that they're coming off Super Bowl talent just because they lost Kyle Shanahan. But the team I think we need to watch is the Carolina Panthers. I love their draft. I love Deshaun Hall. I love Christian McCaffrey. I really wanted Curtis Samuel later on in the rounds. I think they're going to be a threat. I don't think they're going to be the same Panthers as last year. And I don't expect the Falcons to be too far off neither. But all in all, I wanted to get on here, do a little podcast on a little film review I did, some notes I took. And I can't wait to do another one. I'm going to keep writing articles on buckballpodcast.com. I want you guys to check it out. I spend 3 or 4 hours, each article. I try to do as much research as I can between having my own job and my own little personal hobby here, which is more of a passion. It is a lot of work, and I appreciate everybody that's a fan and that does Send me messages telling me, I'm doing a good job. And also just tell me, what I need to work on. But that's it for today's podcast. See you later, Bucs fans, and wait till next time.